Hey there, today I would like to talk about the Noodler's Flex Pen. In fact, I would like to talk about the new Noodler's Flex Pen. Not the Ahab pen, because at this moment it's October 2011, that is not released yet, but the new batch of Noodler's Flex Pens. They look just like the old batch. They have different, decos, different designs, whatever you like to call it, in the color, but there's something's changed about them, and I would like to talk about that for a minute. So here we have the old Noodler's Flex. Now, for those of you not familiar with that, I will show how it writes in a minute. The spectacular thing about these pens is that they have nibs that flex, and for those of you not familiar with that, it means that under pressure, I don't think I can show you. Under pressure, the tines of the nib open up. You see that? There we go. So that means that you get a line that varies from a hairline under no pressure to a very wide line under a lot of pressure. And that is useful if you practice copperplate or Victorian writing styles, something I'm not extremely proficient at, but nevertheless, it's a lot of fun to experiment and play around with this type of pen. Something else that is amazing is that it is a piston filler. Now, for those of you not familiar with that, it means you can't really see it, I guess. There's an ink window here, and if I twist this end, this is currently not inked up, so I can do that, a plunger moves down into the pen. So there's a plunger in there, a piston, and if you twist that end, then it will move down. You put this in a bottle of ink, and then you twist that end again, the piston moves up and it sucks up ink into the pen. And that's called a piston filler, for those of you not familiar with that. And the good thing about that is that it is not necessary to use cartridges. It's not even necessary to use a cartridge converter, because your entire pen unit is self-contained. And I love that. You don't have to throw out anything. You don't have to throw away empty cartridges. You can just take the pen, you can use it, and you have everything you need, which is good. And the final magnificent feature is that this costs $14, so 1-4, $14, and that is no money. For a pen of this quality, it is extremely cheap. If you were to buy a vintage pen with the flex capabilities of this pen, then you would pay a lot more. And even more modern pens like the Namiki Falcon, I have a review on that. That's semi-flex, I suppose. That's a nice pen, but that is a lot more expensive than this one. So really, you can't go wrong with this pen, I think. Now let's have a look at the new pen. This is one of the many new designs. I'm sorry, but I forgot what the name was of this design. I don't think it was not Cardinal Darkness. I really forgot. It was something with a Vulcan. I don't remember. But I think this is currently unavailable anyway. I'm not even sure of that. But in any case, this is the old version, and this is one of the new designs. This is called Bumblebee. I'm sure of that. And I kind of like the design. I mean the colors. The yellow and black. It looks fairly nice. This sort of, I'm not sure whether I'd really call this marble. I like it. So you get, again, this nice ink window. You don't see any ink like this, and if I turn it around, then you see ink, right? There's ink up there, which is very useful. It will give you an impression of how much ink you still have left. And because these are flex pens, they suck up ink like there's no tomorrow. Especially if you really apply pressure and create broad lines, sometimes up to 2 millimeters. That's really, really wide for a fountain pen. Then really you'll blast through your ink. Okay, so for those of you not familiar with the pen, let's briefly go through the features, and then I'll discuss the differences and similarities between the old and the new versions. The cap is in the same design as the pen. This is vegetal resin, which actually, yep, still smells. It gives the pen a peculiar smell, which I don't really mind, but some people think it's horrid. Now, personally, I don't mind, but it does indeed smell. It's a smelly pen. I'm sorry. It's the only thing I can make of it. It has a nice clip. The clip is nice. I like this. It is springy. It is not so tight that it will ruin your shirt pocket, but it is not so loose that your pen will fly out. This is perfect. I have no comments on that. It says Noodler's ink. You probably can't read it because, oh yeah, there we go, Noodler's ink, because the reflection is a little difficult to read, but I think that's nice. Then you have this sort of chrome band here. I'm not sure what material it is. I don't really care. The body and the twisting thing which I just showed you, which moves the piston. The cap is screw-on, which I always like, because if you just, you know, have a pen that you will you push on the cap, you push it off. Then if you take the pen from your shirt pocket, then you find yourself holding just the cap and not the pen, which is still in your shirt or in your pen pouch or whatever. And I like that. So this is a screw-on and cap, which I really like. Okay, now the big difference between the old and the new pens is the feed. The feed was redesigned. On the old version, if I understand correctly, these feeds were made or fit by hand. It's ebonite, a type of hard rubber, and these were fit by the founder of Noodler's by hand, if I understand correctly, which took a lot of time. And now in the new versions you see the difference. These new versions are created with a machine, if I understand correctly. And that actually makes a bit of a difference. Clearly the feed looks different, it's shaped a little differently, and what you do notice perhaps is that the nib on the new pen looks bigger, but it isn't. It's the exact same nib. It's just that if I turn it around, you may see that the new feed is a little bigger, and you can actually remove the nib and the feed from the pen fairly easily, like this. You see, that's the two separate items. Then you can experiment a little with how far you push the nib back, so to speak. So the further it goes up like that, the more flex you get, because the easier it is for the tines to open. And the further down you push it, the less flex you'll get. Now, I always found I experimented, I found some ideal setting for me, and as you can see, the feed moves in pretty deeply with the old pen, and with the new pen it just doesn't. It stays up a bit, or sticks out a little further, and that makes the nib look bigger. But as I said, the nibs are the same. Now, I have the feeling that on the new pen the nib is a little springier. At least it's a little more stiff. It still opens up, it gives you plenty of flex, but I have the feeling it's a little stiff. And in fact, I like that, because it means that if you apply no pressure, you get a hairline, as you would get with, say, a fine, normal, non-flex nib. And that means that you can actually use this pen for daily writing without any flex, or just a little bit of flex if you like it. And I always had the feeling that with the old pen, that was a bit more difficult. So with the old flex pens, at least my version, the tines open up under almost no pressure, which makes it a little bit more difficult to write, well, let's say a grocery list or something stupid. If you use a fountain pen for that, if you're a real person, of course you do. But I mean, you know, it's a little bit more difficult with this pen. So I actually only use this for specialty writing. If I wanted to write someone a note, or I wanted it to look nice, then I use this. But for other stuff, I use regular fountain pens. Whereas with this pen, I can really use it because, as I said, it's a little stiffer to open up. So you can really get a nice fine hairline, and you don't get any flex effect at all if you don't want it. And in that case, in this case, I think that's actually a good thing. Of course, it is a flex pen, so it should flex, and it flexes. Don't worry. I'll show you how it writes in a minute, and then you'll see that it really opens up. So, I think that's all I have to say about the flex pens. They are always in great demand, and whenever I got both of these from the Goulet Pen Company, I guess it's always a bit of a struggle to get one if you really want one, because they sell out sometimes literally within hours. So you have to be fast, but it's worth it. And even if you have to wait, especially now that these feeds can be produced by machine, it's easier to supply the pens. Really, I would say get one. They're not that expensive, and they're great fun. You can really, you know, doodle around, try to improve your handwriting with this. It's great fun. So really, highly, highly recommended. That's all I have to say about the pens. What remains is for me to show you how they write, and I'll do that next, and that's it. So, I'll see you later. Okay, so here we have the old Noodler's Flex pen. Sorry about the bleed through, but so that's the old one, and this can really attain a remarkable amount of flex. Whoops, don't go too fast, otherwise the feed can't keep up. So this is a huge amount of flex. And this is the cardinal darkness design, if I remember correctly. No, not... well, I forgot. Never mind. I think this is unavailable currently, so whatever. Vulcan, well, whatever. This is the new design. The Bumblebee, I'm sure of that. I have the feeling that this pen is, well, with the new feed, this pen may be a bit scratchier. Not necessarily in a bad way. Oh, it starts to write old. I have to write new now. Maybe a little scratchier, but that also may simply be because it's new. Maybe the nib has to wear down a little bit. That may sound a bit weird, but maybe then it will get a bit smoother. In any case, when it comes to the flex, the good thing about this being a little tighter, having a bit more spring, is that it's really easy to create a hairline. Then as you add more pressure, and more pressure, and more pressure, you can again attain an amount of flex that's comparable to the old one. When it comes to this skipping, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I have the feeling this ink is not as suitable as the this is Noodler's X Feather, Anti-Feather, and this is Sailor Gentle Granite, I think, like pomegranate, something like that. It's a type of red. I like this a lot. It has beautiful shading, and if you use the flex pen, then that really brings out the shading, which I like, which I love, in fact. And the only thing is, I think this ink is a little, it's not exactly dry, but it does, if you write quickly, you see there's no problem if there's no flex, but if there is flexing going on, of course now it keeps up, usually it doesn't, but in these cases of extreme flex, you see, there we go. On the other hand, if you do that with the old pen, this extreme flexing, let's move the camera a little, you see, there we go. You have to go slow with that 1, 2 to keep the feed fully inked up, so to speak. So, 2 flex pens, same basic design, same nibs, just different feed units, which you can really see. Whoops, there we go. See the difference in feeds, right? So yeah, I have to say I'm still utterly impressed by the Noodler's Flex pen, given the price. I think this is a deal you really can't beat. So if you haven't got one, I can highly recommend getting one. So I would say thanks for watching, and bye-bye.